Hello, mate, you all right?
Hi, pal. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, cheers, yeah.
Yeah, how's the audio? Usable?
Yeah, sounds all right to me, yeah.
Cool.
All good.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all right. It's quite an early time, I guess, to do a podcast. I don't
Yeah, I have it written right there. It just says 7 o'clock, and then my manager said, "Just to let you know, you got 5 minutes." I was like, "Well,
know.
uh,
That's all good, mate, yeah. Whereabouts in Manchester are you?
I'm in Chorlton right now."
Okay, I'm in Elmston,
All right. Okay.
so we could have just met up
Yeah.
somewhere, but
Yeah. Yeah.
probably easier technically to do it over Zoom, I don't know.
Yeah. My dog's from Ermston, if that counts.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
I rescued him from. Well, yeah, from an interesting family there. But yeah,
Okay.
how long you been in Manchester?
Moved to Manchester in 2019. Yeah, just before
Right,
COVID, like the summer before COVID, basically.
right
Was in
on.
Sale originally, now living my
Mm,
co-parenting life in Hampton, so it's all right. Got a little dog as
nice.
well.
Yeah, sweet.
Um, but yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, about 2 years ago, like the whole sobriety thing. Vividly remember hearing your song "Kicking Up a Fuss" one Friday and really
Mm,
enjoying it. Listened to it like quite a lot that day, and then went out to meet my friends. Ended up on a bit of a big one, and like that ended up being my last night drinking.
wow.
So it's quite a funny. I don't know, funny link to your new music, but um,
Yeah, my last. I mean, no, we'll probably get into it, but I haven't been drug sober basically since BC Camplight started, essentially. Um, and the last time I did drugs was on my birthday 2 years ago. So it's my birthday in a few weeks. So it's been almost 2 years. I've managed to still be able to have the occasional drink, but uh, but yeah, man, makes you see the world. Makes you see the world. It's fucking terrifying sometimes, but yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, when's your birthday out of interest? Because mine's around that time.
May 31st.
28th.
Ah, nice.
Big up. All right, mate. Well, yeah, obviously, like, with the theme of the podcast based around the 2000s, like for a bit of context, what were you up to in those early 2000s before that first album type thing?
Well, my first album came out in 2005. Um, my first two records, basically, nobody's ever heard. they like they I was living in Philadelphia at the time, and I got signed at South by Southwest. South by Southwest. The actual trip was a fucking disaster. By the way, am I allowed to curse on this?
Yeah, go for it, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I remember when I pulled up to South by Southwest, and I was so cocky back then. And I'm a piano player, and the van pulls up. I'm in the van. I get out, Austin, Texas. I'm looking around. We're outside of a saloon that says "Dueling Piano Player Bar. Come, try your luck." And I looked at it. I looked at the band, and I said, "This town ain't seen the likes of me." And as soon as I said that, a seagull shat in my mouth. So like that's how my that's how my musical career started. Um, but yeah, that's I got signed there to a record deal, and I thought it was just going to be a fucking cakewalk from there. So yeah, that was 2005. I put out a record called Hide Runaway, made a little bit of buzz in just like kind of the East Coast US, and then the short story is I went pretty crazy. Spent a bunch of time in mental hospitals and that. Just after that, so my next record came out in 2007, and it's like just the weirdest record ever. So, so it didn't exactly make a splash. I didn't really do anything of any consequence until I moved to Manchester just out of desperation. And this was like, 5, 6 years after that. Um, but during that whole 2000s period, I was really just kind of convincing myself that I was relevant um, and I was just angry and bitter at every record label that was rejecting me, and having these thoughts like, how can these people possibly hear my music and not want to have me for 10 records? And I was pretty delusional and entitled. So definitely a late bloomer. I'm 45 now, and I'm kind of just starting to take off a little bit now. So it's taken a long time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was really enjoying the first album today, to be fair, when I was listening to it.
Hide Run Away.
Yeah, yeah. I was really
Oh,
enjoying
no,
it.
well, yeah, about you and about 15 other people that heard it.
Sure, people must be like, because I'm similar. I only came across you with the last album,
Yeah.
to be honest, but everyone must be going back through them now, to be fair.
Yeah,
But
I never think about that. As an artist and a musician, um, I put out records now, and I'm just because of how long it's taken for me to get to this point. I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have had this audience when "How to Die in the North" came out, because I really liked this song, and now that's wasted. But people have to keep reminding me that as the more popular your current catalog gets, the more popular your back catalog gets. So it's pretty cool hearing, I mean, like what you just said, and I get things sometimes. I got a DM the other day, somebody saying, "I really like that song 'Suffer for Two' on your second album. That came out in 2007." And it's just so weird. I mean, I've done my best to forget that album, but it's just really cool to the way it works.
yeah, yeah. And then like in terms of Philadelphia in those early 2000s, was there a bit of a scene going on? How did it work, type thing?
Um, I was never a part of any scene ever, really. I'm a bit of a weirdo, and I don't like I don't like being a part of things. It's very hard to explain. um, which I think, if I may, has something to do with why I've lasted, because none of my records sound really anything like what is going on at that moment. Um, but I will say, um, I had a job selling apartments to college kids, sort of like dorm rooms, and this was like mid 2000s, and the staff was myself and three of the guys from the War on Drugs. So, thusly, the guys from the War on Drugs became my backing band. So BC Camplight was me, and then the current Dave Hartley, Robbie. Um, so that was pretty cool, and then I got to play keys with them. Um, but outside of that kind of little crossbreeding, if you will, I just spent a lot of time honing my craft, man, and like sitting on my own, and trying to think of this wonderful thing that was going to happen to me in the future. I just never really, even to this day, um, the thought of being accepted for some reason repels me.
I know what you mean though, because Nick from Kaiser Chiefs made that point. He was like, if you can see the bandwagon, you've probably missed it anyway. So it's best off
Yeah,
not being on it,
yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah. That's a great point, and I've just never really felt the urge to shoot for it. There was a huge like psychedelic movement in Manchester in like 2012 or something like that, 2013, and like every band I knew, like just kind of jumped on it. And I get it. I get you should be influenced by things around you, and it's only natural. But I think you have to do it in a natural way, and you have to um, not be too worried about what the outcome of your songs are. The reason that I make songs is because I have to make these particular songs. Unfortunately, each of my records is usually linked to some sort of fucking tragedy, or just an unpleasant moment in my life. And these songs are my kind of conduit to my own feelings. The last thing I'm thinking about is like, oh man, I fucking hope Pitchfork likes this. I could give a shit. Like, I really, really don't care. Um, so hopefully some people appreciate that, but we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. And like the element of humor seems to have always been there. Has that been a key element type thing?
Well, I kind of don't know any other way with music. I've always been a little bit confused why there aren't more artists that have kind of a wider palette of emotion in songs. I think I figured out the answer is that sometimes it can be a bit confusing. You know, if you're listening to a song about a breakup and it's kind of funny, sometimes the message isn't focused enough for people and it gets a little, um, I don't know, unclear. But I've always been of the mind that like humans are complicated, man. And we have really dark thoughts and we have thoughts that are light and we have uh, longing and then we feel accepted and then we feel like we'll never tell a joke again and then we feel like we're hilarious and like I never understood why songs couldn't reflect that. I think some of my saddest songs are my funniest songs. um, and I just, yeah, I don't know, I think the idea of listening to a sad song that is kind of overwrought and like talking about how awful life is just doesn't really appeal to me personally. Um, and with humor is just a one of the best displays of humanity, you know. Um, so it's always just been a big part of my life in general. I think it's a bit of a defense mechanism for me. Uh, I'm a nervous character, um, so I use humor to, I don't know, make people think that I'm not me. I guess. Yeah.
No, I can relate to that, yeah. But
No.
in terms of that as well, it kind of some of the songs remind me a bit of Adam Green in that respect with the humor. Is that someone you've ever been into or anything?
I know the name. I have to dig into it more. Somebody else recommended Adam to me before. Um, I know one artist that I respect a lot that I think around 2018 or 19, I was really starting to get into a bit more. And there's Richard Dawson. And um, he was one of the kind of other people that I've heard that was just talking about really mundane stuff. And it was funny, but the guy wasn't like the happiest guy of all time. Um, so that I think that was pretty influential on me. So then my next record that came out after I got really big into Richard Dawson was shortly after Takeoff in 2020, and that's the first one that people were kind of like, "Whoa, okay, that's good." So I think that's right around when I hit on things, when I hit on something, was kind of when I stopped trying to be so fucking poetic about everything. You know, there's songs about like death on that album, and instead of being like, the great oak lost its leaves or something, it's just like my dad's dead. It's like so there's like a directness and again like a humanity that I may have taken from Richard.
Yeah, yeah. And then just in terms of those bands that were kicking off back in the early 2000s, we talk about a lot about the Strokes on here and stuff. Were they someone you're ever into or not really?
Absolutely. Um, I'm I always come off a bit pretentious when I talk about music because people think I'm trying to be a snob, but I'm not. This is like a kind of a diss against myself. I think it's because of I have all sorts of crazy ADHD neurological shit, but like my brain is so loud and music does not calm it down. So when I get asked a lot of questions about like who's your favorite this or that, like I genuinely don't listen to that much music. Again, sounds pretentious. Loads of classical music because there's less kind of predictable things for my brain to latch onto. But it's a roundabout way of saying there's something about Julian Casablancas and those melodies that are so good. Like there's so, I mean, his delivery is really croonery and stuff and cool, obviously. but he just has this way of like doing these kind of little half steps that just tug on you for a second. Way to Carolina, like that kind of stuff, and I'm just really, really got to me. Um, More for like the melodic uh, aspects of the band more than like the kind of uh, cool New York rocky stuff, which was great. But yeah, melody writer, he's about as good as it gets.
Yeah, yeah. I think he said a similar thing about trying not to listen to like loads of music because he felt like if he had like a like an optimum level of music or a standard of music that he'd write at similar standard, hopefully type thing or something like that.
That makes sense to me. Um, yeah, I've struggled. I've been kind of talking about this for over 20 years and never really know how to put it in words. I just don't really have time for music that's not fucking great. Like I, I guess you can't discover it unless you're listening for it. Um, but yeah, lots of music just kind of frustrates me because I just find myself instead of enjoying it, going like, "Oh, why didn't you do? Oh, you should have gone there. You almost had it." And it's just not a very nice way to absorb sound. So yeah, I spend a lot of time in quiet.
Yeah, yeah. And like in terms of songwriting process, has it always been the same or has it changed over the years type thing?
Um, well, it's certainly changed now because my songwriting process used to be I go into the studio and um, just try to get in a state of almost madness, and I'd kind of come to with you know a bottle next to me and crumbs on my shirt, and there's a song in the computer. Um, I've stopped doing that. So my process now is to really, really feel my feelings, um, and not try to make it really poetic and not try to glorify the kind of tortured artist thing, but really say, hey, listen, if I'm going to be an artist that people listen to and depend on to be um, an accurate representation of kind of pain and things, and I have to feel all of those things. I can't be masking it with being drunk all the time or being coked up, because I've done that for a long time, and it was only in the brief moments of clarity in there where I was writing really good music. I can tell in some of the albums the stuff where I was just like hiding. I had a record called Deportation Blues that's really cool, but you could tell I wasn't ready to show my face, and that bothers me. So now I spent months and months and months just kind of getting to know myself with this new kind of crazy clear head that I have, and um, you know, I don't know if you've gone through this as well, but one weird thing about having a clear head in my semi sober state is it's not just like everything that's going on now that you're able to process more. I'm just randomly processing shit that happened 10, 15 years ago, and like even the past couple of weeks I've just like it's really hit me about my last relationship, um, and all of the things that I feel guilt over because I was so messed up during it. And so as far as process goes, for a sober conversation, my process was to really not worry about the actual songs themselves. I've always been good at writing, you know, uh, music, and I know that that's kind of second nature. But I really wanted to make sure that everything I was saying was from a place of like experience and truth, and that was the priority. And I kind of I don't want to kind of go too far into what some of this album is about. I think it'll be made evident when people hear it. But there's certain aspects of some traumatic experiences I had as a child that I sing about on this album. And that was just an example of what I was just saying. I was like, listen, I've never gone halfway with my songs. Like, if I'm feeling all this stuff now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So I kind of let it all out on this record. It's a little bit terrifying just because I think when my family hears it and my friends hear it, they're all going to be like, fuck, man, you all right? You know? um, but I don't know any other way to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. And I know what you mean about kind of the processing things. Like, I feel like my perspective on certain relationships has really changed in the last couple of years. Or like, well, yeah, like you say, things that have happened. I almost feel a bit more ruthless now. Like, I can like back
Mhm.
myself to cut certain things off type thing. I don't know really.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's all a bit vague. Um, but yeah, in terms of the 9 songs, I was interested in why 9 songs on each album, on the last few albums, and the new one.
Um, Maybe it goes back to what we were just saying about not having like tolerance for like not even necessarily bad music, but like fat, excess. Um, I was making a pretty clear statements on my past 3 albums, and I had an absolute banger that I cut off of this album, and it would have been like a radio song. Um, I never showed the label or anything because they would have wanted it to stay on, and I cut it because I didn't think it had anything to do with the record. You know, um, it was just kind of like festival banger, and like which would have been good for my wallet probably. Um, but it didn't fit. So I don't have an incredibly long attention span, and 9 songs always feels like it just about makes sense to me. I usually kind of try to wrap albums up with a little bit of like a instrumental outro kind of thing, cool off period. Um, but I think for me at least, my albums are so emotionally dense that I can't stand any more than 9 songs. Like, let alone, and I'm me, let alone like the listener. I can't expect the listener to be um, put through 12 songs of BC Camplight. So I think 9 is the sweet spot.
Yeah, no, I mean when I look at an album and I see 9 or 10 songs, I'm like, oh, that's nice. I quite like that round figure. I feel like it's digestible.
Yeah, especially these days. I don't want to be one of those old guys that complain about streaming, but um, yeah, I talk to musicians that are like, oh, I put out another single or I'm putting out a song next week, and like so many people just don't care at all about the concept of an album. Full stop. It's just kind of about putting songs, putting content out. So and everything's so quickly digestible that I think even these days, expecting somebody to sit down and listen to 9 songs is a pretty tall ask. But thank God there's enough people still doing it.
And what about this banger? Will it ever see the light of day?
It depends on how much money this album makes me. It's like, um, I'm not like a guy that has loads of stuff on the cutting floor, but so I don't have a lot of B-roll, but and I don't really like to waste songs, so maybe I'll do like an extended version of this album when the money dries up.
Yes. And then, do you play a lot of festivals? You mentioned festivals.
Yeah, it's weird the way festivals work with the timings of how I put my albums out. Is For your listeners who don't know, especially UK festivals, they tend to book in January for the following summer, January, February. So I always put my albums out, or I tend to at least, kind of around May, June time. So my festival appearances are always kind of the year after my album comes out. Um, because festival bookers don't know if the album's going to be good or not until it comes out. Um, and so what typically happens is we'll do a bunch of smaller festivals the summer that the album comes out. I think I'm doing a few smaller ones where I'll kind of headline them. And then the next summer, as I have to prove over and over again that I, have a good fan base and make good records, I usually get booked for, the Glastonbury and Green Man and things like that. And I've never been like, this isn't a great pitch to get better festival slots, but I've never been a huge festival guy. I'm not like, I don't know. I don't want to come across like fucking Woody Allen or something, but I'm just not like, I'm not into this inflated sense of self and love and freedom and all the stuff that festivals thrive on. Um, so I still to this day, now that even though we're playing the Roundhouse and Apollo and stuff like that, I much prefer dingy room, 400 people, sweat and dark. Um, that's kind of my heaven.
Yeah, so you played Delphi Hulk. That's where I'm from originally.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that place is like, isn't that place like pretty legendary?
Yeah, yeah. It's tiny but legendary. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is the place where I was in the dressing room and I saw a Radiohead poster, um, and it was like really old. It was like from their first album or something. And I'm not a name dropping kind of guy, but I'm um, buddies with the drummer from Radiohead. So we're actually working on it's kind of side project, Phil. So I sent him a photo of the poster, and then he just got back to me immediately. He's like, "I fucking love that place," and started telling me all these stories that from back in the day. I remember the owners being super cool. The sound guy was quite a character.
Is it Jim? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Great place. I think we played pool afterwards and partied. Yeah, and nothing worked. There's like 6 monitors on stage. One kind of worked. And the cool thing is they were so unapologetic about it. I'd be like, "Hey man, sorry, I don't think the microphone's working," and they're like, "Well, they're not all gonna work." You know, like, "Oh right, okay, cool."
Yeah, I remember we put on like an 80s night once there and like called it Vice City night. And I rang him once, Paul, and he ended up kicking off at me saying he rang me during my tea when I'm eating my tea. I'm like, don't answer them, mate. What's the problem?
Yeah,
But
I
yeah.
love the vibe because I can get a little bit, depending on my mood, I can get a little bit kind of diva, um, when things aren't going right on stage. But they let me know immediately when I got there. They're like, "Shit ain't gonna go right up there." I just did like a small solo show, and they're like, "Make the most of it and have fun." And I was like, "Sounds good to me, man."
Yeah, because I think I saw you just before then at the Albert Hall in Manchester.
Mm.
And
Slightly different vibe.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember that show. I think you rang your mum to like show off a bit, and
Was that at
she
Albert Hall?
just wanted to talk about a tax like you got from HMRC or something.
Yeah. There's sort of like a running joke now about me taking the piss out of my mom. Uh, there's some truth in the kind of the gag is that I've been looking for approval from my mom forever, and ever since I've made it clear that I wanted to be a professional musician, um, she's just been so skeptical, but not even like outwardly. It's more like she'll say things like if I say, "Hey, mom, I'm headlining the Apollo," and she'll say something like, I heard that like piano tuning jobs play really well, and there's not that many of them." And so it's a kind of without saying it, she's saying like, "Oh man, I'm really worried about you, son." And me just desperately trying to make her go, "Wow, you made it." And I think I'm just trying to convince myself of that as well. So every now and again, I'll give her a little call from the stage so she can hear the roar of the crowd.
I know what you mean. Like, I know whatever I do, I know deep down my mum just wants me to be an electrician or a plumber. She'd absolutely love that
Yeah.
for some reason.
Yeah, my dad, he passed away a few years ago, but he used to say all the time, whenever I'd have good news, he'd say, I just worry about the fall, though. There's no
What, the
congratulations
drop
on
off, you mean?
yeah, 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 the
Right.
drop off. I just hope you can deal with the fall. Um, Maybe all of this pessimism sort of prepared me, because I've had lots of falls. Um, and I've never gotten too excited when good things have happened to me. But yeah, I think it just would have been nice to hear it one time for somebody to be like, "Oh, it's so great! You know what? We're not even worried about you anymore. We think you made the right decision." Um, yeah, but never wanted to have a backup plan. I always like when I think about backup plans. There's always that shit that everyone says like if you got a backup plan, then like you're not really concentrating on your main thing. That was never my thing. I don't have a backup plan because I'm not fucking good at anything else. Like like not even close. Like I can't work with my hands. I can't. I'm an okay cook, but not to a professional level. I have no attention span. I have really bad ADHD and anxiety and depression, so I couldn't work in an office. So I'm basically stuck with this job, and I'm super super lucky that I'm good at it, and I count my stars every day. Just and and when I want to complain about this business, and there is so much to complain about, um, I just think there's so few people in my position that can make a living out of doing this without compromising and without having to, you know, be on Radio One or something.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I did enjoy a lyric about your mum where you said, it's along the lines of, Mum, I want to kill myself. And she said, grow up, Brian, you're 40 now, mate.
Yeah, yeah. And then I give a line back, and I said, actually, I'm 41. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the one. I enjoyed that.
yeah.
Um, has she seen you in recent years then or not in terms of live music?
I think, well, obviously we live in different countries now, but
Yeah.
she's probably been to maybe 4 or 5 shows when I was back in Philly. I mean, to her credit, there wasn't much to see back then. I was just like a guy swigging whiskey and pounding on a piano. Um, Not exactly the kind of fodder for a mom to stand up and be like, "That's my boy," So I don't blame her. Um, I sent her the tour schedule, and I was just like, "Hey, listen, mom, I don't know if I'm going to be playing bigger shows than this. I'm playing in the Roundhouse, uh, Rock City, and Apollo. These are like 4 or 5 thousand capacity venues. You should come over and see me." And she was like, "All right." So if I can get her over, I'm going to make a big stink about it. Try to get her out on stage. Let her experience what it's like.
That's got to be the Apollo gig, surely.
Yeah, yeah. I got all sorts of things that I'm thinking about for the Apollo. Trying to pull in every favor imaginable. I think I might be able to get Johnny Marr on stage for a song. I haven't actually asked him, but I'm going to because I know he's a fan, which is cool. So yeah, I'm gonna try to pull some tricks out of my sleeve.
That's it. Then just feeding a few fan questions. Going
Mhm.
from Adrian's Escapades says, "Will you ever tour in the US?" A lot of prayer emojis.
um, it's a weird one because I've gotten so accustomed to pulling up to a venue and knowing that there's going to be like at least 1,000 people there. Um, and this is after 15 years of having no people there. So the idea of going to America at like great expense, um, and having to prove myself all over again, I don't know. I don't know if I have the kind of energy for that, um, at this stage. If there was like a significant appetite for me to go there and, you know, there's a bit of a groundswell and I can maybe go over and do like a solo piano tour or something, possibly. Um, but there's a lot of politics involved in touring, and I don't know many promoters that are going to um, put their neck on the line in Kansas City, Missouri, for BC Camplight to come over where nobody's ever heard of me. So in theory, yes, I'd love to, but I wouldn't I I wouldn't count on it.
Fair enough. Do you play festivals over there?
I played Bonnaroo a few years ago, um, and that was really bad.
All right. Why is
I
that?
don't. Well, I don't do psychedelics. Um, Well, I guess I do because I did. I was on acid, but I didn't. I, I didn't. I didn't do psychedelics really up until that point. So yeah, I was on acid for Bonnaroo, and don't really remember much of the show other than it was sponsored by Bud Light, the stage we were on, but they refused to give us beers. So I remember just pointing to all the signs all around the stage and being like, "Hey, what's this shit?" And like, just being dumb.
Yeah, they don't ask that about like substances and songwriting. Like I've
Mm.
always been interested. Do you think it ever enhances songwriting or not really?
I guess it depends on where you are, and I wish I knew the answer to that. I've always maybe been a little bit paranoid about stopping taking substances because there was a piece of me that was like, well, maybe that's where the genius is. Um, but I think if you got it, you got it, and I think if you're able to like, I think that there are times where if I have like a few drinks, I'm more likely to open up um, the recorder on my phone, and my inhibitions are lower, and I'm, you know, rambling out a bunch of ideas. But I also think my quality control is a lot lower. So I usually go back on my phone and like listen to it, and like three of them are already a song. One of them's like the fucking theme to Countdown or something, and then and I was like, oh, this sucks. And every now and again, you get a gem, um, but I'm just trying to go a little bit more of a direct route now.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, songs quite eclectic, some of them in terms of different sounds and everything. Are you quite, I don't know, it's like that thing about, do you know when to put the brush down type thing, or can you be quite labored over a song? I don't know.
Um, that's a really good question. I'm getting a lot better at stripping things back as I've become more confident in my ability to communicate what I want to communicate, because it's really easy. It's really tempting sometimes to just throw everything at the canvas, um, especially when you think you have a lot to say. Um, but I think part of maturing as a songwriter is knowing that if you were trying to have a conversation with a listener, sometimes it's a more successful path when it's just one voice speaking to the listener instead of all these crazy voices and uh, kind of juxtaposed ideas, throwing everything at them. So I've been good at going, oh, I really like that, didgeridoo part that's in this song for no reason, but I'm going to take it out because it makes no sense. Um, Whereas before I'd be like, yeah, but that's kind of part of the charm, man. Um, so I'm getting better at putting the brush down, as you say. But there are times where I'll listen to an old version of a song. I had a song called "Thieves in Antigua" from How to Die in the North in 2015, and that's sort of the song that got me started in the UK because Six Music liked it and stuff. And I heard a version of that song that had just kind of like this Hawaiian slide guitar all through it. And I was like, that's amazing. Why doesn't the actual song on the album have that? And the answer is, I have absolutely no idea. But at some point, I went, nope, that's too much. So it's really delicate, man. It's just like it's like making a stew. You can put in too little, too much. There's no real science to it, and it certainly can keep you up at night if you're worried about getting the ingredients just right.
Yeah, yeah. No, when I was listening today, sometimes I didn't even know what instrument it was. It's just like real 80s sound. You think, oh, that sounds ace, but I couldn't tell you what it was.
Yeah, I do like to do sometimes this a thing where I'll layer up four different things playing the exact same part so they sound like an instrument that doesn't exist. But that's just more me just trying to be clever, rather more than it actually being something super useful for the song. But yeah, well, I appreciate you clocking it though.
But you've always been big on collaborating, right? That's obviously a thing with having musicians around you, type thing.
Yeah, well, this past record now that is coming out, I've kind of now that I guess we can call soberish. I still don't know how to refer to myself. I'm not on drugs. I don't know whether there's a word for that. Um, is there a term for somebody that drinks and doesn't do drugs anymore?
Don't know, drug free. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm drug free. I'm drug free. Um, I've taken this opportunity to kind of open my world up a little bit. I'm a bit of a closed off fella, um, and with that is kind of taking these opportunities to welcome more ideas from other people. I still, veto 98% of them, but um, for instance, my partner Jess has been like super helpful with this record, and she's just kind of been there for a lot of the studio days, and um, we've kind of cultivated a atmosphere where she'd say like, "Are you sure about that part? And wouldn't you rather it do this?" And in the past, I would have been like, "Just say you hate the song," But like now, I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? I think you're right," or "I get what you're saying, but no, I'm going to keep it the way it was." But just this whole kind of being open to collaboration is just it's just helped me kind of hear these songs through other people's ears and through their experiences and stuff. And yeah, it's just been really cool. And obviously, the first single is with Abigail Morris from Last Dinner Party, um, and yeah, that was a really cool experience as well. We had lined up another singer um, who at the last minute said she couldn't do it. So I was like, oh man, I really wanted this to be a duet. And uh, I remember that Last Dinner Party was a fan of mine because they came to see me at Glastonbury. And I just sent Abigail a DM. I was just like, I know this is a long shot. I need to have a song recorded in the next like 48 hours. Here it is. And I kind of sang her part on the version that she heard. I was like, if there's any way you could do it, you'd kind of be saving the song. And she had it back to me in like 24 hours. Like she'd done the song. So that's kind of opened my mind up to collaboration as well, especially because she killed she in a good way killed the song. She just she did way better a job as than I would have done if I was just sat there directing her. No, sing it like this, sing it like this. The choices she made and the ad libs and stuff were just so full of character, and it's just, yeah, it's all of it's been a bit of a wake up call that, like, you know, you're not always right, Bry. I know it's your music, but people can add to it.
Yeah, I mean, some people were asking about that song, so we'll feed those in.
Sure.
Sophisticated, can't see the full name. Sophisticated Green something says, "What made you choose the metaphor of a two-legged dog?"
Um, the song is a little bit about taking accountability for yourself, and I pardon me. I was in a relationship for nearly 10 years, and I think I leaned on her a lot to soothe my anxieties, and I was my anxiety levels were off the chart because I had so many things that I haven't dealt with emotionally with myself, and they're kind of coming to the surface in all sorts of weird ways, and health anxiety and depression, um, and I wanted to write a song from the kind of both the what's the word I'm looking for? From the position of the man, my version, and then the female uh, vocalist is essentially the person saying to me, like, I can't save you. Um, you know, you have to learn how to walk on your own. Um, and then for some reason, uh, the image of a two-legged dog is came to my head because I thought of like a dog with two legs. Maybe in the beginning, if a dog had his, you know, his two front legs removed, it may be kind of unnatural and confusing to teach this dog how to walk, you know. And then I thought, well, you know, humans, we're all kind of just two-legged dogs. And it just made sense to me. And in the chorus of the song, you hear Abigail going, right, left, right. So she's just kind of reminding this character that he does have the ability to move forward on his own, um, like a two-legged dog. So that's where it comes from.
Yeah, yeah. And Stella the Foreigner asked, "How was the process to write the song?" Well, I guess you've kind of answered that, really.
Yeah, well, what I didn't want to do is write a song that was kind of woe is me, and oh, I'm in so much pain, and why isn't anybody helping me? That's why it was really important for me to have the other character in the song say things like, um, "Don't make me sorry, sorry for you. I'm not a lifeguard. I'm struggling too." Just saying like, "I can't save you. I'll be here to love you and to help guide you, but you need to do things for yourself." And that's kind of the theme to the whole album, is just like a moment where I'm learning to do things for myself, including um, dealing with sort of my emotional baggage that I've never been clear-headed enough um, to deal with. So yeah, the process of the writing has been really difficult because, you know, you're trying. It's just it's a weird thing when you think about music, man. It's like I'm trying to get across to myself and to the listener that I'm moving into this phase of my life where I've dealt with um, these really painful experiences, and but also it's like it's got to have a bop, man. Like it's just such a weird job, isn't it? Like I'm just like, you know, you're just making sounds and saying words and hoping people like it. um yeah, but the process has been um really difficult, but you have to just keep reminding yourself again. I keep reminding myself how lucky I am to be able to go through this torture and 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 have people listen to it and think it's cool.
Yeah, I know what you mean. 'Cause I was listening to the radio recently. I was just like, must be weird for someone in your position where you're listening to songs and thinking, these are like my contemporaries. This is what we do. This is like
Yeah.
our products that we're putting out. You must like, it must, the dynamic of you listening to the radio stuff must be like so different. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to what I was saying about having a tough time just listening to songs in general. It's like I'm constantly always in this writing mindset. So when I'm listening to things, unless it's like truly in the background and I'm out to dinner or something, like my brain's going like, okay, what is that the relative minor of this, and what's chord progressions happening there. But I think it's more of just like I'm at the older I'm getting, I'm realizing how just surreal the job is. You know, it's like we're all just I'm just like having a breakdown live on camera, but it's like we're all just like making sounds, um, and hoping that people accept them. And it's one of the weirder things is like when you have a song that just means is something so personal to you, and you know, like I've had songs about like when my dad died, and you just have people coming up to you after the show and be like, "Oh man, I love that song!" Like, yeah, that's my favorite. And then like dancing to it and stuff, and you're just like, man, my life is weird.
Yeah, some, I mean, like, I suppose things like Joy Division and stuff, it's like people like dance their heads off to like very depressing lyrics.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. I get it, but it's like,
Must be weird
it,
for you as a person who wrote it, like knowing where it came from, yeah.
yeah, and it's weird. Like when I listen to like I try not to listen to too much of my older stuff, but when I could put on any song from any album, and it's like within the first three notes, it's just like this flood of memories and just where I was at that exact moment in time and who I was with and my friends. And so obviously from like it's just like whatever what anybody experiences when they listen to songs, like they just kind of bring you back. But when you're the one that's created the song, you have such a weird relationship. Well, at least I do. I have just such a weird relationship with my songs, and they mean something to me that they can't really mean to other people. So it is bizarre. Um, just yeah, it's bizarre hearing the reactions to the works. It's an odd thing.
Yeah, and when I spoke to Ryan Jammer from the Cribs, he was like, with some songs, as soon as they get put out there, he's almost sick of them straight away. Like, well, the
Yeah,
relationship changes straight away, kind of thing.
yeah, and you know what? Like, so when a song goes out, you end up touring it, and then the live version of the song, at least this is my experience, the live version of the song just sort of becomes the song in my head. So when I think of Kicking Up a Fuss, I hear the live version of Kicking Up a Fuss because I hear it constantly because I'm constantly playing it on the road. Um, and then I get a little bit tired of it. And then I'll hear the recorded version of the song and I'm usually like, wow, we've moved so far away uh, from the way it used to sound. And I think I'm just subconsciously doing it on purpose. I'm always kind of like like letting these songs evolve live because I really don't want to get too tired of playing them because hopefully I got to do it for another decade or so.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's quite good as an audience member as well, when you're getting something different live, I think.
Yeah, well, we try to do that. I One of the things that I pride myself on as being a good uh, a good live band is I think I think it can be frustrating when you really like a record and you go to see it and it's just not quite up to snuff, or there's like too much attention paid to like that trying to replicate the album exactly how it sounds rather than like the way I do it, where the set is a way more kind of bombastic and joyous and loud and energetic. And that's I just feel like you owe it to your fans to be celebrating the moment together, that you're all together, um, and not just mailing it in and worried about like making sure that you're basically essentially playing them an MP3 of your song they already know.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's a good way of keeping like popular, like older songs fresh as well. I've always thought like the Strokes are quite good at that. Like Julian will change the melody slightly in Last Night or whatever, and it kind of keeps it fresh a little bit.
Yeah, I've been doing that in rehearsal, um, because we have a song called "You Should Have Gone to School," and I've been playing it live. For some reason, it's like the one song that I've been playing live like identically for like 10 years. And then just this past week in rehearsal, I was like, I wonder if I do it a little differently here and there. And it's just like, man, why didn't I do this before? It just opens up so many other kind of pathways, and then the drummer will go, oh, okay, well then I'll do this, and then it just really freshens things up.
Yeah, yeah. And then we kind of skipped over you moving to Manchester, but for anyone that doesn't know, you moved here because a fan suggested it. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it would take about an 8-hour podcast to get into my backstory, but I was essentially squatting in an abandoned church in Philadelphia in 2012. Um, you know, essentially homeless, and the war on drugs had already started to kind of make it, and they were less interested in, I think, being, the members of that band that were in my backing band were less interested in playing with me, which is more than understandable. I was getting really kind of bitter. No record companies wanted to sign me. I had no money. And when I did tour in the mid 2000s, my English tours were just so much more fun than the American ones. And I always loved Manchester. I'd been there maybe 4 or 5 times, and like it just, yeah, I remember the shows. Nobody knew who I was, so there weren't that many people at the shows. But the 6 people that were there took me out, and we had the greatest time. I remember I ended up. I used to wear like a bowler hat, which looking back looked really stupid. But I just remember ending up in the gay village at like 2 a.m. with some like 10 fans that took me out there, and like some guy dancing on the table with just my bowler hat on. And like, uh, yeah, and like just, I had I remember being at the Temple Bar. Um, and then when I was sitting on the floor of this church in Philadelphia, I just thought, right, this is either going to be my life. This is just me rotting for the next however many years I have left, or I'm going to stop blaming everyone for my problems and just go try to make something of myself. So I got a hold of this journalist named Mark Powell, who had got a hold of me a couple times about interviews and things. And I just said, do you think you can help me, get over there? And he said, leave it with me. And then like a few days later, he's like, well, yeah, my friend needs a housemate. And I think I was in Manchester with a suitcase maybe less than a week later, because I had nothing else. I had nothing to lose, and no partner, no home. So I showed up, and it was not a linear process. And again, maybe this is one for Wikipedia. I was deported and banned from the country and all this other stuff. But the long story short is that ever since coming to Manchester, everything's made a lot more sense. It took me a few years to piece together my first record. Then Bella Union scooped that up and basically signed me to every record I'm ever going to put out. And it's been a bit of a kind of an ugly fairy tale, and I have no intention of leaving Manchester. Every now and again, somebody in the industry will be like, "Well, we'll get you a lot more kind of movie soundtracky kind of jobs if you come to London." And just yeah, no thanks. Nothing against London. London's great, but it ain't Manchester.
It's a great quote, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, you've been productive since you moved here. Have you found it quite conducive for songwriting?
Yeah, well, I'm not even saying it in a funny way. Like the miserable weather, I love it. I feel like it brings everyone like down to my level or something. But like, um, and it goes back to what I was saying about festivals and not being really kind of like everything is okay kind of guy. Um, and Manchester just has that vibe. Like you walk down the street and there's a little bit of a toughness, which is a lot like Philadelphia, where I'm from, and it's kind of no bullshit and kind of all the tropes that people associate with Manchester. Like they're all true. The people just tell you to your face what they think. Um, it's it's a less like cliquey, um, and that's really like inspiring. It's just made a lot of sense to me being here. It's just made me go like, right, okay, Brian, just be yourself like all these people. And I've met some of the best friends I've ever had here, and my band, obviously I met them here, my partner and my dog, and I just owe so much to the city. That's why I try to include Manchester as much as I can in my actual music, because I just feel like forever indebted to her.
No, I enjoy. I don't think when I first listened, I didn't realize you lived here. So when like you get those references, it's like, did he just say that?
Yeah, there's a line that I always cringe over in the shower. Um, I said outside a chippy shop in Oldham. So
Yeah,
this is before I knew it was chip shop or chippy, and I say chippy shop. So
yeah.
now when I play that live, um, that's when I play that line. I say chip shop, and I can hear loads of people giggling because they know I've had to change it.
In terms of recording, do you do that locally as well?
I record my records in Liverpool, at a place called Whitewood Studios. It's just awesome. There's a fellow there named Daniel Woodward, who's basically my right hand man, kind of engineer. Um, my records take ages. They take so long to record, like usually about a year. So frankly, I can't afford to go into one of these studios where it's like you got 3 weeks to make the record, and um, and it's super expensive. And I'd rather have a place where I can say, "Hey, Danny, this is going to take about a year," and there's going to be times where I'm going to like cancel with when you're on your way to the studio because I'm not feeling it that day. It's like there's no other really studios in the UK that would have afforded me that kind of leeway, and he's just been like really instrumental in being able to get my ideas sounding really good. Um, but yeah, just like traditional recording studios, I don't really understand how people make records like that. Like, I don't understand how you go, okay, we got August 1st to August 28th, go make the record. Because I'll do an idea for a week on one song, take the song home, put it in the drawer, take it back out 2 months later, and I go, oh, now I know what I was doing. Like this needs this, and I needed this song to tell me that. And it's like, it all sounds a bit douchey. But it's like that level of detail and being kind of like immersed in it that I need in able to make these records. Like I also have this thing where I don't want to make there's always these comments that my records, I'm not even saying I necessarily believe it, but that my records are getting better, and it's rare for somebody like going into their 40s with their records getting better. And I'm so paranoid about putting out like something that's a little bit worse than the last one. So each record that I'm doing, I'm just like putting so much more time in. So I'm so glad that I found Whitewood in Liverpool.
Are the label quite understanding with stuff like that as well?
Yeah, they they get it. I know that they're probably a little bit frustrated with my process, um, but you know, that's the way it's got to be. I know. Yeah, I think on the whole, Bella Union's run by Simon Raymond, who's obviously was in the Cocteau Twins and is an artist. Um, so he gets it, and it's one of the reasons why we've been working together for now 10 years. Because I know I'm not putting out albums on a record label that's just interested in making money. Um, and they know that they got an artist that is, will put the time in and would rather be, would rather break themselves making a record than put out something that's substandard. So it's a good match.
Did you have that flexibility with the early albums, or was it a bit different?
Well, I wasn't on Bella Union for the two American ones, but the first, it was kind of funny how we started working together for my first UK album when I moved to Manchester. It was called How to Die in the North. I completely self-funded this album um, at a place called Eve Studios in Bredbury. That was the only album I've made since being in the UK that wasn't made in Liverpool. And this album took 3 years to make because I had no money. Um, and I finally got it done. I knew about Bella Union. I knew about Simon. I really thought that they'd like the record. So I did what you're not supposed to do, which is email the boss of the company the record. And I just said, here you go, Simon. I think it's a really good record. I'd like you to put it out. I felt pretty confident. Day goes by, nothing. Week goes by, nothing. And I'm thinking, well, he probably gets a lot of mail. It's not a big idea. 2 weeks goes by, and I was like, that motherfucker doesn't know shit about music. He like, I'm like telling everybody, like, how could you and then like 2 days later, he sends me just the kindest, most life-changing email where he breaks down every song, like only really a musician could, and just throws appreciation all over me and says, we'd love to put this album out, and something to the effect of, we would like to be the one who puts out all your albums forever. And to this point, they've stuck by me, and they had every reason to drop me. As soon as How to Die in the North came out was when I was deported, so I couldn't actually tour the record. And I thought, well, that's the end of that relationship. But they stuck by me, and we just kind of put the trust in the music and didn't worry too much about momentum and all the things that we couldn't control. And we're still doing it.
Yeah, yeah. And like, as a more of a solo person, do you have people that you can lean on in terms of ideas and giving you the feedback kind of thing?
Yeah, like I said, my partner's really big. She's a musician herself. She was in a band called P-Ness, who did quite well. And she's just overall very musical person. So I go to her a lot. I go to Simon at Bella Union. And unlike earlier times in my life, I go to people who I think might tell me honestly when they don't like something. Because there was a point in my life where you just send it to your friends, they're going to say that this, you're the next Brian Wilson, man. Um, so I like surrounding myself with people now. And my friend Jolin, who's just an insanely good multi-instrumentalist. He's in my band, and Tom, my bass player. I'm more and more sharing things and ideas with them, and lo and behold, they come up with great ideas and tell me when they don't like stuff, and it's just kind of makes me wonder why I didn't have this mindset earlier. But I do have, I have loads of people to lean on.
And does it always start on the piano, or does it start different kind of ways?
It almost never starts on anything really. I write most of my songs kind of in my head or in bed. Um, because I've been playing piano so long, I know if I have a melody in my head, I can put the chords in my head because I know what chords they're going to be. I write a lot of times, like in the supermarket or something where um, I'm a bit distracted. So the voices in my head, the normal chattering kind of voices are a bit distracted. So kind of musical ideas kind of hit me. I don't spend a lot of time going, right, okay, I'm going to write a song. No, I don't spend any time doing that. I don't go, right, tonight at 6 o'clock, I'm going to sit down at the piano and we're going to write a song. It never happens like that. I've tried it. It's pointless for me. It doesn't work. I sit there and I'll just end up like, my brain wanders, and next thing I know, I'm playing Rocket Man or something. And like, so I think being a songwriter, one of the key things I think is recognition. It's like recognizing when you have a good idea. And um, I honestly believe that probably these kind of ideas pop into people's heads all the time. And unless you've practiced being able to catch them, then they probably go in, one ear out the other. So yeah, that's how I write. I'll be doing something, and sometimes it's even annoying. I'll be doing something important, and my my brain will go, connect me with the manager, please. And I'm like, God damn it, I got to go write that down now.
Is that
That's
how you do
mostly.
it? Do you write stuff down? Because I remember Noel Gallagher saying a similar thing. You just like have a mad memory for all these melodies and chord sequences, but you have to write them down pretty quick.
Uh, when I have something that's like notable that I think of, I've captured something, I'll usually just pop it onto a voice thing. Um, I don't typically write out my lyrics, and I don't even really. I know a question a lot of songwriters get is like, what do you do first, the lyrics or the music? Um, I personally think that usually when people answer that question, they're lying, because unless there's people that really have that strict of a process, which I guess can happen, but for me, it's just it's kind of this mad jumble of sounds and random strings of sentences and music that I'm kind of just nudging them all at the same time into this kind of little tight spot. Oh, that um, there's no there's no rhyme or reason to it. If I had to, when I'm like 75, and if somebody said, Brian, write a songwriting book, I wouldn't be able to do it. Like, I don't understand how. I see like songwriting tips all the time. I just got asked by a magazine to do my songwriting tips, kind of like Popular Magazine, and I am going to do it, but uh, I'm not sure how much of it's actually going to be super useful for people, because while I have like little things that I do to be able to capture my, uh, you know, whatever ideas are floating around in my head, there's absolutely no actual strict process or anything that routine that I could put myself through that has proven to work already.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, I think people want to, like you say, they want to have their formula to follow, don't they? Something, don't they?
Yeah, man, if it was that easy, it wouldn't have taken me to 45 years old to be you know, to be good at it. If I could have had a shortcut when I was 25, I would have loved to do that.
All right, cheers for your time, Brian. I'll just finish just a couple more and we'll finish on the fan questions. But you did mention the politics around touring, and Kate Nash came out recently and said, a sold out tour around Europe might end up costing her about 60 grand. Like she'll come out down. Do you think, is that possible? Like, how does that work?
I think lots has to happen. I just got the the bill, if you will, for the costs for some of the venues just to put on the shows on this UK tour, and they're just astronomical. And I think everyone's kind of pointing their finger at somebody else. The venues are saying we have to charge that much because this vendor and this vendor, or everything's more expensive now. And then people pointing their finger at Ticketmaster and promoters. And the bottom line is somebody's got to figure this shit out, because it's gotten to a point now where I'm going on tour around the UK, and I have to ditch my band to take the show into Europe because there's just no way to do it. It's so expensive. And it's just, given everything that's happening in the world at the minute, I think it's the last thing that people are really worried about is how expensive it is to tour for musicians, and it's kind of a world's smallest violin situation. But I think it's going to really hurt. It's going to hurt culturally, countries, and they'll slowly start to realize that lots of like really good music just can't come through. So I saw Kate talking about that, and I feel for her. And I actually I remember reading the comments in the under that Instagram post where she was talking about how expensive everything is, and they were quite nasty. A lot of the comments saying like, "Well, then, you should be more popular if you're gonna if you're gonna want to do a big tour and make a lot of money," which is nonsense. But yeah, right now we're at a point in music where if you're not semi-established like I am, or if you're not a band who has the uh, it's not luck because they're good bands, but the good fortune of having like a marketing campaign that is going to work, like Fontaine's or Wet Leg or something like that. The music industry is just at its all-time hardest. If you're a new band right now, just starting out, like it's unimaginably hard. Even radio is different. So yeah, I really hope things change. There's got to be some grassroots initiatives to get ticket prices down, and people are hurting at the minute. Fans, I feel bad. I'm trying to play the Apollo. Well, I am playing the Apollo, and I don't want to have to charge loads of money for people to come see me. But that's just the way it goes, especially when you're playing like larger venues. And I don't know what the answer is, but people are going to start turning their backs on live music if you gotta pay, 60 quid to see me or something. And like, and artists are gonna start saying, "Hey, well, this isn't worth it anymore," and then you're just going to be stuck with, a bunch of rich kids that are in bad bands, and that there's going to be your options.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's interesting. Like, feels like the festival headliners are getting older and older as well. It's just like the go-tos kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like if you're established, if you're like a safe bet, then like you're okay. And there's nobody wants to take a risk at the minute. Um, like when I was saying my experience with Belly Union, and they do still like nurture loads of like young bands and stuff, but that's not the norm. These record companies are generally more interested in how many viewers you have on TikTok, and and a lot of those bands that do blow up on kind of social media, just by the very nature, are gone in 1 or 2 years. So then they're gone, and then the bands that are like really substantive um, never really get a chance to shine because they don't have the push behind them. So yeah, it's a sad state of affairs, but I do believe in the kind of the power of music, and I think we'll get there.
Yeah, yeah. And do you find you can like you don't have to pump out content all the time? You can be a bit more laid back with
Mm.
that type thing.
Yeah, man, content. I'm so like, it's a
Do the
it,
label want you to do it a bit more, or what? How does it work?
there's no, you kind of have to. That's what I mean. It's like I can complain about having to do Instagram posts, and I just joined TikTok. I'm like the oldest guy on TikTok, and then like I could sit here and complain about that and sound like very get off my lawn, but it's not. It doesn't really get me anywhere. Um, so I just kind of I use social media um, where I have to, and I've made a decision that if I'm going to do social media, it's going to have to show off my personality, um, and it's yeah. I just don't want to. I don't want to be one of these people that's just constantly flogging products like on Instagram, and buy my new this, and here are my t-shirts. It's because like I don't know. I just don't feel like the public gives a shit about that anymore. Like as fast as people scroll, but it is a bit of a necessary evil. But I would I would warn against bands kind of relying on that or judging their own worth based on how many people are interacting with them on social media. You just got to get really good at what you do, um, and all that other stuff will fall more or less in place.
Yeah, yeah. Who designed your merch out of interest? Do you do it?
My merch to this point was designed by our old bass player. This is the first tour that he's not going to be a part of the band. So if there's any merch designers out there, let me know. Don't have a plan at the minute. We got a few months to figure that out.
Okay, cool. I know someone that might be up for that, so I'll give
All
them a
right,
message.
sweet.
Okay, let's get to the fan questions then. The Conundrum Band on Instagram say, "What keeps you doing what you do?" Brackets creating the most beautiful and touching music of a generation.
Well, that's very kind and accurate. Um, I think this is another one of those moments where I think I know the kind of the pretend answer, which is that I love music so much and I have to do it. I'm not sure that that is the actual answer. I think the actual answer, the more I get to know myself, is I'm too afraid to do anything else, to try anything else, because I know for a fact that this is the thing that I'm good at. So um, the path of least resistance, believe it or not, for me, is to take whatever talent I have and make the most of it. So there's never really a time for me to go, okay, well, that was fun. Now let's try roofing. Like I don't really have that option. So I've embraced that this is going to be me probably for the rest of my life. I would love to get more into TV and film. I don't know how more that hasn't happened. I kind of feel like that's what I was made for, doing more soundtracky stuff. And I still have a lot to prove to myself and my mom.
Jimmy Maynard says, what's your most treasured 7-inch or cassette or CD single?
I don't own loads of music. My dad looked almost exactly like Luciano Pavarotti. My dad's name was Angelo Costinzio, and he had a very limited record collection, and one was Pavarotti, with the kind of, I don't know what the suit's called. It's almost like a clown suit with the big fuzzy kind of black balls on his shirt, and I think it's just like a Pavarotti greatest hits vinyl, and I have that because it just reminds me of being a kid and um, and listening to that music that I love. Um, and Nessun Dorma is one of my favorite songs of all time. Songs, pieces of work, and it also feels like I have a photo of my dad in my record collection. So I would say that would be mine.
Yes. Paul Big Liz on Patreon says, how big a moment was playing Jules Holland?
Well, it would have been better if you said my name right.
What did he say?
I think you said DC Damplight. BC Damp.
What?
Yeah, so we played pretty well, and I was in the dressing room after, and I was a little bit pumped up, and somebody in the band was like, "Oh, don't worry about the thing in the beginning." I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah." He was like, "Ladies and gentlemen, DC Amplight." And I was like, "He did not say that." And then I had a YouTube link of it, um, and I watched it. He totally said that. So then we got a hold of the show, I think through my radio plugger or something, and was just like, "Yeah, it's not a big deal." But Brian noticed you said DC Damplight, and they're like, "Oh, that's so embarrassing. We're very sorry about that." Just totally didn't change it. But but yeah, super cool experience. I never thought I would get on TV, and he was really gracious, and he came into the dressing room, and you know, I'm by far, let's just say he gets a lot of big stars on there, and I wasn't one of them. But he took the time to talk about how long he's wanted to have me on the show, and I think being a piano player was obviously a draw for him, and really appreciative that they had me.
Yeah, because was there a moment you were supposed to play before? Was that when you got deported or something?
That's the
Is that right?
one. Yeah.
So quite a cathartic experience and getting back on it.
Yeah, it was actually kind of cool because I don't think we would have been ready to do it when we were actually supposed to do it in uh, back in the day. Because I just think I'm just way better at putting on a show now and way better at writing songs. So I think it would have, if we had gone on one of the earlier records and gone on the show, I think I would have been like, I don't want to watch that. Like, I feel like I was kind of half cooked performance.
That was it. Enjoyed it. Wesley Sheesh on Instagram says, who's your favorite fan that you've met?
Oh wow.
Quite a vague one, I don't know. I don't know if there's a story to it or something.
This person obviously has knows me. So I must have a story with this person. But I'm trying to think. Oh, you know what? I wish I could remember his name, and I feel a bit embarrassed that I can't. Um, but there's I think it may even be in Hull.
All right.
There's a guy who brought me a pair of earrings that he had made that were ghosts.
All right.
Um, and and he's whenever I see him, he kind of always shares his story with me, um, and we kind of commiserate in the whatever in the alley outside the venue, and he kind of always brings me a gift, and I love seeing him. There's a fellow that I know for a fact I think was at the whole gig named Ian, who's been a fan for many years. Ian Gao, I think his name is. So it's always really cool to see faces that you've been seeing for a decade or more. For the longest time, those faces were the only ones at the shows. So, and that you get a bit like, oh, I hope some more people are going to come. But now it's cool when you have like a whole new, fresh audience of people that have seen you or seeing you for the first time, and you can see the kind of satisfaction on the people's faces that have been there from the start in the crowd. Yeah, I've always had a really close relationship to my fans because I talk a lot about. I'm really open about mental illness and things like that, and so I've always tried to make it clear that like I'm very much here for the fans, and obviously would be nowhere without them, and genuinely interested in their stories, and I just feel when people come up to me after shows and if they're emotional and teary and they're saying, this song was playing when this thing happened, and like it just moves me so much, and it just makes me feel like I've had an impact, and that's like what a gift that is from these people.
Yeah. And then Gillette Dawn on Instagram says, "Where did the Camplight part of your name come from?"
It's the most boring story of all time. I I was I was probably 22, 23, and I had this manager who I gave my first demo to, and she was shopping me around to different labels, and she got a hold of me on a Friday, and she said, "Right, your name's Brian Crescenzio. You can't have that name as as an a musician. Nobody's gonna know how to say it." And I was like, all right, I'll think of a band name. And she said, well, okay, I'm going into these meetings on Monday. We really need to tell them. I'll call you on Monday morning. And I was like, yep, fine, gotcha. I totally forgot, of course. And she called me Monday morning, and I was on the computer looking up campsites for going camping in New Jersey. And she was like, hey, Brian. I was like, hey, Jen, how's it going? She's like, right, what's the band name? I was like, what? Like, the band name? I was like, oh, yeah, it's BC, because that's my initials. And I looked at the screen, I said, camp. And then I looked at the light, and I said, light, BC Camp. And she's like, BC Camplight? And I said, that's it. And then she's like, well, what does that mean? And I was like, well, it's a bit personal. It's pretty deep. And it's just stuck.
Do you agree with her in hindsight that you couldn't have had your normal name?
Well, yeah, probably. My last name is interesting, but it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. Yeah, the amount of there's like nuisance calls I get that are like, "Hi, can we speak to Brian Christian? Brian?" I'm like, Brian's fine. So yeah, it's probably the right move.
I suppose every interview you'd have to answer that question first, wouldn't you? Like, how do you say your name?
Yeah, not a great start.
And then one last one from friend of the pod, the folk drama, singer-songwriting couple from Glasgow, saying, "Will you check them out as the big fans?"
Okay.
So I'll say that for them.
Sure.
And then, just to finish on, Brian, I asked people, what's been the high point so far, and is there anything you do differently?
What's been the hardest? What?
Sorry, what's been the highlight so far of your
All
career,
right.
and would you do anything differently?
I don't know the answer to the would I do anything differently. I'd be interested to see if there was a way of having a crystal ball to say if I did this or that differently, where would my life be? Because I don't hate my life at the minute, and for all of the stuff that I've put myself through, and it's been a lot, I've ended up in a pretty cool place. So I'm glad I didn't have early success. Genuinely really glad about that. Yeah, it's weird because I'm 45 now and kind of like at the peak of my career, and I'll think of sometimes I'll hear a song or remember a song from 2002 that was massive, and I'll go like, oh, wonder what that band's doing now, and they're obviously not together anymore. And I was like, oh, how old is that guy now? And he's like 43. He's like younger than me, and it's like all these people that. So yeah, so I'm glad that my life's kind of gone the way it has. I think if I had it any easier, um I wouldn't have been as kind of road tested as I am, and yeah, and I probably wouldn't have as much to draw from. So yeah, I wouldn't change anything. I'd say the highlight of my career is probably getting that email I said before, because it was the first moment that anybody in the industry had given me any kind of validation. This is like this is the first time somebody said, "We think you're great, and we're going to make sure everyone else knows it." And it took like eight years from there to kind of build an audience. Um, but I think having that support in that moment when I really needed it was the catalyst for everything to come.
Okay, yes. Nice one, mate.
Yeah.
Really appreciate your time.
Hey, man. Yeah. Thanks for having me. And let me
Yeah.
know about your merch ideas sometime soon.
Yeah, it's a guy called Dave. He's in a band called Dustin's Bar Mitzvah, if you ever heard of him.
I haven't, but it's another one I'll check.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, look forward to the Apollo.
Yeah. Thanks. Give me a shout beforehand. I'll chuck you on the list.
Oh, legend. Cheers, mate. Appreciate that.
Cool. All
All
right, buddy.
right. Take
Take
care.
care.